Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here to a facts, stats, trivia, and a top 10 for the fighting typing. So fighting on a defensive scale is going to be pretty solid, that we have 3 weaknesses and 3 resistances, and those weaknesses are going to be flying, psychic, and fairy. So technically getting a little bit of a nerf in that 6th generation, but we're also resistant to rock, bug, and dark, and we hit 2 of those for super effective damage. Actually, we hit a lot of things for super effective damage. Dark, ice, normal, rock, and steel. 5 typings, which is pretty insane, and then we have 5 more typings that are going to be resisted. So very high amounts of resist and high amounts of super effectives. Pretty safe typing when you look at it like that. So we will be resisted by bug, fairy, flying, poison, and psychic, as well as just completely immune by ghost. Looking at the base stat averages for all fighting type Pokemon, it's going to be very straightforward. I mean, the attack is going to be the 2nd highest out of any other typing, and it just makes sense. The symbol is a freaking fist, so that's your logic right there, and then we don't have a lot of special attack, so naturally we're going to be more physically oriented. We're not going to be doing any special voodoo stuff. We also have low defenses, good amount of speed, and about average on the hit points compared to all the other typings, but it does put us at a healthy 6th place, which isn't bad at all. Looking at some other things that we have going for us, Mewtwo is going to be the highest base stat total of any fighting typing Pokemon, and that is going to be followed by Mega Heracross. And if we want to look deeper into the attack stat, well, the highest non-legendary, non-mega is going to belong to Conkeldurr. However, the highest individual stat for non-mega, non-legendary fighting typing is going to belong to Hariyama's hit points at 144 base. So now let's get on to a little bit more interesting facts about the fighting typing. There are 6 legendaries, 5 of which were introduced in the 5th generation, and that's going to be from the Swords of Justice. And then there's also 6.5% of Pokemon are going to be the fighting typing, making it the 12th typing out of all of them. Moving on with some more trivia, Vacuum Wave is a very interesting move because even though the fighting type Pokemon don't specialize with too much special attacks, Vacuum Wave is the only priority special attacking move, and very few Pokemon get access to it. Looking at another interesting move, we have Wake Up Slap. Wake Up Slap is only one of 2 moves, the other one being Smelling Salt, that interacts with another status and then can remove the status by dealing extra damage. So one fun thing about this is that Shroomish can learn Wake Up Slap through egg moves even though it doesn't have any arms. Other than that, fighting type moves are single target only. There are no fighting type moves that can target more than one opponent. One thing that's really weird about that is we have moves like Quick Guard and Mat Block, which actually protect multiple allies in some situations, but we just can't damage multiple opponents. Now, using a fighting type attack against all Pokemon is going to be different because like dual typings and stuff, so we can use this to get a better idea of the calculations, Pokemon DB type coverage. So that's going to show that we have good amount of super effective hits, good amount of not very effective hits, and then the no effect from the ghost typing. Now one fun thing is all you have to do is add ghost, and boom! No resisted hits, nothing immune, and you still get a good amount of super effective hits, and then some high normal effectiveness. So that's going to be like the very basics of fighting, and normally you're going to also see this with like rock and stuff, so you can add up to a lot of super effective hits, maybe add some ground as well, and you're going to clean up really well with the fighting typing and some other things. Alright, so now it's time for the top 10 fighting Pokemon. So let's get to it with number 10 being Machamp. I just feel Machamp is a solid Pokemon, that it has a lot of attack. I mean, 130 base attack, as well as some good amounts of utility and above average defenses. It just works out pretty well. So the idea behind Machamp is that you use Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch with that No Guard is going to set up a lot of really fun stuff because Dynamic Punch makes it towards a 100% chance to confuse the target, the main drawback being that 50% accuracy. Well, that doesn't really matter anymore, so now you get a stab 100 base power move that causes them to confuse. So what happens is, you're bulky enough to take a hit. You take a hit, Dynamic Punch, they hit themselves in confusion, then you get a free KO just like that. You can also run Stone Edge. Stone Edge is going to be 80 base power, but lots safer with that No Guard, and then you have a really good choice off of items. You know, Assault Vest is going to make you a bit tanky on that special defense. Go with the Choice Band if you just want Choice Band and Dynamic Punch. Go Choice Scarf on a speedier nature, which is an option. You can go full tank. There's a lot of different things Machamp can do. It can find some supportive qualities in double battles, and it can just be a really nice Pokemon to have in singles. Very solid revenge, and then you can run all kinds of really fun coverage. You even get priority on that Bullet Punch, and then you can just run Ice Punch to dunk on some dragons, and that's going to be the basics of Machamp. Still a very solid Pokemon. So now we're on to number 9, and I'm going to put Scrafty at number 9. Now, we were already talking about a bulky fighting type Pokemon, but Scrafty, this dude is tanky with 115 on both defenses, and even though the 65 hit points is kind of low, it's more than tanky enough, and you can just run Bulk Up on it. So Bulk Up is going to give it offenses as well as just even more defense, so you can run Special Defense Tank, or it even gets Dragon Dance. I don't know why, don't ask me, but it is a Dragon Dance Pokemon. It also has Shed Skin, so Shed Skin has a 33% chance to have its status cured at the end of each turn, which means you might even see some rest sets, like you can just rest, get back to full health after going Bulk Up or something, and still have some really fun stuff. Moxie is really good for snowballing as well. Dragon Dance once or twice to get your speed in the right place, and then you just start one-shotting everything, and then the snowball continues from Moxie. Or in a Trick Room team, you just run as a bulky Trick Room Pokemon, make sure it finishes off an opponent, and you're good to go. So after that, it gets a lot of really nice stab. You get Drain Punch stab, you also get Knockoff into stab, and it's just a very high utility Pokemon. Works in Trick Room, works out of Trick Room, has the Fake Out, so it's also a support, does damage, and it's just very solid overall. It just has to worry about Fairy-type Pokemon, so that weakness does keep it down since Fairies are fairly common, and it doesn't really do much if it doesn't get going. You know, the 90 attack is alright, but if you're fully invested into tanky stats, you're not using high base power moves, it's going to fall flat on damage in some situations. So if it doesn't get going, it could be kind of bad, but if it does get going, well, now it's a terrible Pokemon that you just cannot knock out, and it's really powerful because of it. Alright, number 8 is going to be Mega Heracross. So I feel Heracross, especially Mega Heracross, is a very powerful Pokemon, but the main thing holding it back, a lot of weaknesses, and a really low speed. 75 on that base speed is kind of bad. However, you do get 80 on the hit points with 115 and 105 on defenses, so a lot of effective tankiness if you're not getting hit by your many weaknesses. But then we get to Skill Link. Skill Link is what makes this Pokemon so absurd. So what happens is, every time it uses a multi-hitting move, it's going to hit the full amount of times. That's a move like Pin Missile. Well, Pin Missile is going to hit 2 to 5 times, and that's going to be effectively 125 stab base power on a 185 attack Pokemon. That's neutrally one-shotting a lot of things. Then we get Rock Blast, just rounding out the coverage. That works out pretty well. And then Close Combat, and you can kind of throw in some other moves that work out really well. Bullet Seed. So really good coverage on very high amounts of base power, and then you can just go into the Close Combat for crazy amounts of damage. People might wonder why there's no Arm Thrust. Just low base power, 15 times 5, 75. The Close Combat is better, does make you more frail, but that's kind of the thing about Heracross. If it's getting outsped anyways, it's in a bad situation, so you might as well get one blow up right there. But I feel its best use is just the ultimate tank buster. If they have a tanky Pokemon, you just bring in Heracross, and Heracross will beat them into the ground. So I think that's why it's going to be a fair number 8. Very powerful Pokemon, one of the highest attack Pokemon in the game, as we've already mentioned. Only does high base power moves, a lot of stab, a lot of ridiculous damage that cannot be walled out. But it's slow enough to where it can be easily overwhelmed. So let's get on to number 7, which is going to be Emboar. So I think a lot of people are wondering why Emboar is getting fairly low on the list. I mean, it's already beating out the Heracross. Well, that's because of its new hidden ability, Reckless. It does 20% more damage on crash moves, and you can just run Flare Blitz. And Flare Blitz is going to be 120 base power stab, 123 attack on that Reckless, and then you can run a very safe Choice Scarf for that speed, so boom, 229, that's going to boost you into 300, mid-300s range, which can be pretty nice. You can run Jolly Nature, or you just go attack for the more damage. And it also gets the Wild Charge, so you do have a couple of things that synergize with the Reckless pretty well. You can run the Earthquake for extra coverage. Now, it does fall short on fighting. Like, if it had Drain Punch, it would be absolutely busted. You just Scarf Drain Punch, heal up a lot, and then you can, like, switch out Flare Blitz, switch out, and just kind of play a really long, kind of complicated game with the Emboar, but we don't get that, so it's not worth talking about. Same with the Close Combat. I would love to have a high base power move backing this up. So we aren't going to have too many options. You know, we have the Low Kick. We can. I don't think Brick Break's that crazy of an idea. We can maybe Hammer Arm. Now Hammer Arm will slow you after using it, which kind of defeats the purpose of outspeeds. But if you just need the coverage, Hammer Arm, switch out. Well then, you are good to go. So Emboar does have just a ridiculous amount of damage. I think to understand Emboar, you have to use it. You have to find those outspeeds. You have to be surprised by it. You have to find those outspeeds. You have to be surprised by its damage. And then when you realize how powerful this Flare Blitz is with that Reckless ability and how much you'll actually win with it, it will be a very deserved 7th best fighting typing. Alright, next up we have Hawlucha. Again, a strange pick, but I feel it's an incredible support Pokemon. So it has the Unburden ability, or can even Mold Breaker as well. With Unburden, you can kind of play this into your favor. I've seen all kinds of really fun combos. So you have Sky Attack. We run the Sky Attack, 140 base power. It has to charge up, has a chance to flinch, has a high critical hit ratio. It's just a really solid hit overall, but then all you have to do is just give it the Power Herb. Power Herb is going to make the 2-turn move complete in 1 turn, make it faster from the Unburden, and then we're just running with the 92 attack. So that is going to be the problem on Hawlucha. I've seen Focus Sash Swords Dance. You Swords Dance, now you're +2 on the attack, and then you go into a Focus Sash, that procs, now Unburden makes you super duper fast, and that's going to be really nice to have. You also do get access to some really nice moves like High Jump Kick. Well, High Jump Kick is absurd amounts of power. 130 stab power is going to be ridiculous, especially after Swords Dance, so Hawlucha can slam the damage down like that. Another really nice thing is that Hawlucha is a flying typing, so we can even add the acrobatics. So once we have our Unburden proc, now we're getting crazy amounts of acrobatics damage in that power doubles for some kind of double setup. So you actually get the Sky Drop. Sky Drop is effectively going to eliminate your opponent's turn and then just make it a 1v1. So you have a very powerful Pokemon next to Hawlucha, Sky Drop one of their threats, and then you just blow up that Pokemon. It works out, because all you have to do is outspeed it, and if you get the Unburden proc, that's going to be in your favor. At least if you outspeed them for the turn, you lock them down, and then they get flinched, and then Unburden just makes sure that you're the fastest Pokemon on the field. High Jump Kick still threatens a lot of damage. Sky Drop gives you a lot of stacking on just how many times you can kind of shut down an opponent, and it just works out pretty well as a Pokemon. It can even do some other things like Tailwind. It even has Ally Switch if you want to be a little bit annoying right there. So it has a very deep move pool for really supporting Pokemon. It can also be super offensive in singles. And with that diversity, I just feel it's a very hidden OP Pokemon, and it will one day shine and be one of the strongest, and then this list won't look so crazy. Alright, number 5 on the list, we have Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee, again, we have an Unburdened Pokemon that's just absolutely insane, and you can kind of make this work in many different ways. You go normal gym into a Fake Out. So normal gym Fake Out, now you're going to have super amounts of speed from the Unburden. You get a little bit of boosted damage on that first Fake Out, and then you just go High Jump Kick and crush everything that's in your way. So 130 base power stab on a 120 attacking Pokemon, that's going to be pretty solid, and we'll find you some neutral one-hit KOs in a lot of situations right there. You can also run some other coverage that works out for Hitmonlee, so you can run like the Blaze Kick if you want that fire. You even get access to Earthquake, and we can just kind of go down and see all the other moves that we get access to. Poison Jab for fairies, Stone Edge if you want to run that, and you can even run other variants of this as well. So we have the Endure. So we get access to Endure, which means we can combo that into the Reversal. The less hit points you have, the more power it has, up to 200 base power at 1 hit points, which is what the Endure is for. Now, what berry works in a good situation like that? Well, we do have the Lychee Berry, so you Endure, drop to 1 hit point, Lychee Berry activates, now you're getting +1, as well as the Unburden, as well as the super fast Reversal. That's just absurd right there, so that's going to give you tons of outspeeds, and just synergize really well with the Hitmonlee, so that's it. And it's really fun and easy to set up with that Unburden. Alright, next up, number 4. I know everyone's waiting to see it somewhere on the list, and it's going to be the Blaziken / Mega Blaziken. Each of them have their own benefits and drawbacks. Mega Blaziken isn't much tankier than regular Blaziken, so we can go and kind of bring these up for the compare and contrast. But regular Blaziken, it gets the Life Orb. So Life Orb damage is effectively going to balance out the boost that it gets from the Blazikenite. This Blaziken can't get knocked off though. You are getting different amounts of stats. You're getting more speed on this Blaziken. You know, you can run like Focus Sash to guarantee a setup. It's kind of give and take on how you want to run it. If you want to preserve your Mega, you can run regular Blaziken, have another Mega Pokemon, so you can fake out your opponent on that and then be really powerful. But really what makes Blaziken so strong is that speed boost ability. Speed is raised by 1 stage at the end of the turn, so all you have to do is max out the attack, max out the speed, run, protect, and then you're good to go. After that, you get pretty nice coverage. Brave Bird for just coverage and high amounts of base power. You also get the Flare Blitz. Again, very, very high amounts of base power, and that's going to be Stab and High Jump Kick or some fighting move of your choice if you feel the High Jump Kick is a bit too risky. And with this, we just have a lot of power, 120 on that base. Most likely you are going to see the Adamant. Some people like to run the Jolly because 1 Protect and they don't have to worry about anything. But, you know, with the Adamant, you do get more power out of it. Life Orb boosting into a Flare Blitz, very high chance of neutrally one-hit KOing. The only drawback on this Pokemon is defenses or getting played around. It can happen from time to time. If some Pokemon out-tanks it, like a very heavy physical tank Pokemon, it can survive and then knock out Blaziken pretty effectively as well. So we're just kind of looking at it from those crazy stat point of views. And it can even run something like the Swords Dance or even Bulk Up. So Bulk Up will give it a slight amount of defense, which could save in some situations. But Swords Dance or Bulk Up is going to be kind of risky as well. If you want to run that instead of Protect, you just have to hope your opponent is going for a setup turn. Then you set up harder, you gain the speed, you sweep them, and that is all she wrote about the Blaziken. And even then, Blaziken has a really high amount of special attack. It actually has the highest special attack of all fighting type starters, so that means you get the most powerful Overheat as well. So Overheat on Blaziken can be a very powerful option to transition into physical if you need it to against like some kind of physically defensive tank. It can just be a nice little surprise. Special Blaziken does work out in the end, and that's a lot about Blaziken. It sets up speed boost, you can't touch it because it's too fast, and then it's murdering you in the face. So now we're going to get into number 3 on the list. I'm going to put Mega Medicham because of that pure power. Pure power is way too much damage. So without any attack nature, say we're running the Jolly Mega Medicham, well, that's 299 attack right there. If we go with the Adamant, that's going to be 328, but we're doubling this. So we're either pretty much 600 attack Pokemon, absurd right there, or we go into over 650 on that attack. Now the only problem with the Medicham is going to be its speed. 299 unless you go into the Jolly, in which case you're going to get more speed out of it, and as long as you outspeed it. Like, here's how Medicham works. You have to outspeed it. If you outspeed it, you win. Like, that's just how it works with Medicham if you have the right moveset. Actually, when you break down Mega Medicham's matchups, there's nothing in the game that can survive 2 hits from a Mega Medicham and then one-shot it back. So if they switch in, Mega Medicham hits it, and then they just die afterwards because they can't one-shot in return because they're either so tanky or they don't have the right moveset to deal with it. Reason why? Incredible amounts of coverage. So the Zen Headbutt, that's going to be a stab neutral hit that's absolutely ridiculous. You also have Drain Punch. If you want to go for a more sustainy build, you can actually cut away some of the speed on the Mega Medicham and then put that into hit point investment, help with the Drain Punch. You can also run High Jump Kick. High Jump Kick on Mega Medicham that's the bread and butter right there. We're looking at the 130 base power into stab, so 200 base power move with 600 attack, or over 600 attack in some situations. It just neutrally one-shots almost everything. That you're going to find this Medicham's damage is absolutely unreal. And then we also get all the elemental punches. So we have Bullet Punch, then we have Ice Punch, Fire Punch, Drain Punch, and even like Thunder Punch, whatever you want to run in that situation. So Mega Medicham, all it has to do is outspeed. Ultimate tank busting Pokemon. It's like a faster, somewhat safer, roughly the same / potentially more damage than the Mega Heracross. So Mega Medicham can just come in and really find ridiculous levels of destruction in the right situations. You support it, you put Sticky Web on the opponent's side of the field, and very few things can stop it after that. Alright, now we're starting to get into the seriousness. Number 2. What Pokemon that is a fighting type is going to be number 2? Well, it's actually right here. I gotta put Breloom. Not because it's this overwhelmingly powerful Pokemon that's going to absolutely tear through a team or anything, but because of Spore. Here's the thing about Breloom. It has the Spore, and Spore is one of the best moves in the game. It's a 100% accurate move that puts the target to sleep unless they are a Grass-type Pokemon. So if they don't have any Grass-type Pokemon, or if you use like a Fire-type, or you burn through their Grass types, then Breloom can just put your opponent's whole team to sleep and really run away with the battle from there. Also, Breloom finds ways of making it work. Has the Bullet Seed. It has other options like the Mach Punch. It can even run like substitutes. Sometimes you'll see like substitute Swords Dance, and it's still a ridiculous Pokemon right there. And what makes it extra powerful is Technician. Pokemon moves of 60 power will have 50% more power. Well, that's your Stab Mach Punch. That's going to be a really solid hit right there. And the interesting thing about Bullet Seed is that it technically only has 25 base power. So every individual hit of the Bullet Seed is getting boosted by 50%. So if you land 2 Bullet Seeds, it's effectively a Stab 75 base power move. So even in its worst case scenario, it's only slightly less than a Seed Bomb when you're running that Technician. It's just really good like that. Now, the only thing holding Breloom back is going to be its speed. So 70 base speed isn't really going to accomplish much, so Endure on Breloom into something like a Satellite Berry is going to make this thing an absolute monster. You Endure, you go to low hit points, well now you just outspeed and Spore everything on your opponent's team, and then you'll eventually beat them down. Or you can switch out Breloom, play it safe, go into Breloom whenever you want. It always possesses that Spore threat. So if the opponent's team isn't ready for the Breloom, it's just absolutely devastating. And back in the day, 4th generation, 5th generation, before we got into like crazy amounts of speed and power creep in the game, it revolutionized the game. Like Breloom changed the entire game effectively because that sport's just so powerful that you can get a free boom, your opponent goes to sleep. Before 6th generation, when grass-type Pokemon could go to sleep from the Spore, it was an absolute nightmare. Also, you have like Sub-Focus Punch Breloom. It's just a Pokemon that you need to be wary of, and I think that its impact in the game from a broad scale has to make it number 2 on this list. Alright, number 1, the strongest fighting Pokemon. Actually, before we get into that, let's talk about some honorable mentions. Honorable mentions, Pokemon that didn't make the list. Infernape. It's fast, it hits hard, it has a lot of really good things. You know, very powerful, very fast close combat for a lot of damage. It also does have a lot of really good things going for it, like Fake Out, even gets guard moves, so you can go for that quick guard if you need it in double battles. It just does a lot of really good things. However, it does have the 108 base speed. So with 108 base speed, it's good. It outspeeds a lot. It can really tear through a team, don't get me wrong, but in the end of the day, it's just a less effective Blaziken. That Blaziken and Infernape, they're going to do roughly the same thing. Infernape does have more doubles pressure on that Fake Out and the Quick Guard, and a bit more reliable damage on that close combat. You know, Blaziken does have to risk with a high jump kick, but Blaziken's going to get faster, it's going to start putting out more physical damage, also has more special attack. As much as I don't want to say Blaziken is a better Infernape to offend all the Infernape fans, it's just never impressed me in a battle, either when I use it or go up against it, and for that reason, I'm just going to have to put it as an honorable mention. So hey, it's still a pretty solid Pokemon. Another honorable mention is going to be the Terrakion. I think it deserves to be on the list, but at the same time, even though it has really nice stats, it's got those legendary stats, something's just missing. Like, it slightly underperforms on the damage sometimes, unless you have a Life Orb, but most of the time you're going to want Focus Sash because you have 7 weaknesses, and you have a good amount of speed, but if you don't go into Adamant, you're still not hurting enough. It's in this weird kind of limbo. It can do really well, it's also very pressuring in double battles, but at the same time, it feels like it's just something's missing it from keeping it like as an ultimate shutdown Pokemon that can respond to a lot. Just needs to be there at the right time, and sometimes that's not enough. And then we also have Gallade and Mega Gallade. So the reason why Mega Gallade isn't on the list is because I feel like it's a more reliable, less damaging Heracross. So pretty much that tie for the spot was either between Gallade or Heracross, and Gallade is going to be faster. It's going to be good in that situation because, yeah, now it doesn't get outsped by much, but still kind of going to get knocked out in a lot of situations. The 68 base hit points is fairly low, so it can eat a very solid neutral hit, and it might be at risk of going down. Also, since it is a Mega, it doesn't get access to the item, so 165 attack, you are going to have to run a Jelly Nature on this Pokemon. That's only 429. A lot of other Pokemon, they can run a Life Orb, get more damage than that, and that's kind of the problem right there. So Mega Gallade, it's going to outspeed, but I just feel its damage does fall short where it needs to, and at the same time, Heracross will finish the job. It's going to be slower, it's at more risk, so Gallade's more reliable, less damage. Heracross, I feel, has just those moments where it can shine, and that's why it trumped Gallade on the list. And now it's time for the number 1 fighting Pokemon, Mega Lopunny. It's so fast, does so much damage, it's just a really amazing Pokemon, and it gets scrappy. So you have a normal fighting Pokemon with Scrappy. It's the most beautiful Pokemon from just like a theory crafting standpoint, that this is one of the coolest things that could happen, and it really changes the game entirely for Lopunny because now it can Fake Out Last Resort and not have to worry. So Fake Out Last Resort is a very powerful combo. We have a high base power stab move. 140 base power and stab is absolutely absurd, just scoring KOs left and right. This can neutrally one-hit KO a lot of different Pokemon, and Fake Out Last Resort as a combo is going to destroy something. You also don't have to run that, but it's a really fun thing. You get access to the return, so return is going to be really nice damage. 102 power coming in into stab, pretty solid hit as well. Then you get the high jump kick. High jump kick, this is a game changer. This makes it to where Mega Sableye going to have a bad time. The Fake Out, the Last Resort, you know, you can do this on Ghost type Pokemon now, and that's absolutely absurd. And if you want to run the coverage, you also do get some elemental punches. So you run the Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch. The Ice Punch into all this, like, this is amazing coverage right here. This with the Scrappy is absolutely unreal, and Lopunny is just such a fast Pokemon. It shreds Pokemon, shreds teams, and for that, it works out everywhere. It's good double battle Pokemon, good single battle Pokemon. It can keep itself safe, and once you get a hold of its power, you know, you fall in love, and it's going to be amazing like that. So if you guys enjoyed this video, types, trivia, facts, stats, and whatever for fighting type, and don't forget about that top 10. So if you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.